Welcome to New Light Living Podcast. I'm Ulrika Sullivan. I'm an intuitive spiritual life coach and a galactic astrologer. This video is a galactic astrology reading of the new moon in Gemini at 26 degrees, 43 minutes on June 18th, 2023. So welcome. And in galactic astrology, we extend the perspective out to fixed stars and other planetary bodies. I call it the outer layer of traditional astrology. And this way, we can start to connect with our multidimensional self that takes us beyond our own galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy here, and start to relate to other perspectives. And the fixed stars are very much helping us at this time to connect to our multidimensional self. This new moon is happening in the late degrees of Gemini. And many times we associate the later degrees, the third decan of each sign, with the unseen, more the spiritual aspects of our being, if you will, and also the unseen aspects of the universe. They go together. And the theme of this new moon I see as very much a call for union, a call for a rebirth. And I'll get into what I mean with that in a minute. Gemini is also in the sky, aligned to the Orion constellation. And Orion is one, and very simplified, is associated with stories, galactic heritage of extreme polarity. And the call now is to come into union and start to merge polarities and to become whole. And there's a strong message and beginning in this new moon that we have the opportunity. And I'll walk you through the galactic galactic astrology reading for this new moon. So here we have the new moon in Gemini chart. And what I'm doing in these galactic astrology readings, I put the outer layer of the alignments and the activations of the specific fixed stars and galactic points that are in highlight right now. So in this video, I have pulled out 3 important themes that I see this new moon is really calling us to know. So let's start with the first theme. And for this new moon in Gemini at 26 degrees and 43 minutes, we are highlighting the constellation of Orion and a specific star, Orion-Saiph. And Orion-Saiph, I want to show you here how it looks like in the sky, because you might be curious if you haven't heard of Orion-Saiph specifically. Here is Orion's, the Orion constellation, the Hunter. And you may have seen this in the sky, the 3 stars, Orion's belt. This new moon is aligned specifically to Orion-Saiph, which is at the very bottom of the constellation here. And Orion-Saiph, and it's an exact conjunction, if you will, Orion-Saiph has been associated with the transmuter energy. A transmuter energy, if I translate that, is one that can handle both light and dark energy. It's has been known as a galactic heritage of being the transmuter of negative energy. And anyone who has Orion-Saiph aligned in their personal astrology chart is one that often has a galactic heritage of being the transmuter, either within a family, transmuting negative energy, if you will, that comes in to help balance, let's say, a family lineage from very much negativity to more of a balanced way of managing energy, if you will. So in this new moon, there is a strong message because we are asked to balance light and dark within ourselves. And many of us may have experienced a lot of trauma and going through a lot of trauma, not only within the past couple of years, but have a family heritage of that imbalance between light and dark within ourselves. And Orion-Saiph brings that message at this new moon in the third decan of Gemini to really start to address our inner balance and our balance with our environment. This new moon is also aligned with the Galactic Center, right opposite the Galactic Center at the very top of the chart here at 27 degrees of Sagittarius. And the way I translate that is that there is an open gate now in this new moon for cosmic energy to be balanced, transmuted. As it's opposite the new moon, it's an invitation to come into balance here with the larger perspective of the cosmos, not only within ourselves, but also as a collective. And the new moon and the galactic center is in a T-square with Neptune, exactly now also in at 27 degrees of Pisces. So this is really Neptune's domain. Neptune is in here and helping us to come into balance with the light and dark, suggesting here that we really need to start a new cycle of balance in our lives, but also as a collective here on Earth. The second theme I'd like to draw your attention to is Mercury's alignment to Antares at the very bottom of the chart here. Mercury is the ruler of this new moon, and his alignment to this Stargate, which is Aldebaran at 10 degrees of Gemini, opposite Antares at 10 degrees of Sagittarius. His alignment to this Stargate suggests that there are cosmic downloads, interdimensional travel of information and codes that we have access to in this new moon that is suggesting a big rebirth for us all. Antares and Aldebaran is known for the connection with our sister galaxy, the Andromeda galaxy. So this opening, this almost exact alignment to the Stargate is one of downloads, information. Mercury also is opposite the Great Attractor. The Great Attractor is one of the black holes that drives the universe and multiple, about, I believe, 30 to 50 galaxies. So it's a massive center of wisdom, as I call it. And the Great Attractor is located at 14 degrees of Sagittarius. So imagine Mercury being aligned to this Stargate and also the Great Attractor at this new moon, and being the ruler of the new moon. There's a huge message coming in for us. And Venus is traveling behind Mars still. They're coming closer together, still in Leo, the domain of the heart. Venus is having a leading role, I would say, in this new moon as well, together with Mercury. The way I translate this message is that since this is happening, Mercury is located currently in the second decan. The second decan of Gemini, which is between 10 and 20 degrees, is associated with the mind. And the huge message here, as I see it, is really to have that shift from being up in our mind to going into the heart. Mercury is making a square to Saturn, and Saturn is at 7 degrees in the first decan of Pisces. Saturn is aligned directly to Cygnus, Deneb. And Cygnus is associated with the swan. And if you think about the swan as a creature, A swan can be very, fighting for its boundaries but very beautiful and majestic and almost outer-worldly type of creature. And if I translate this square, is that Saturn is really here to help us grow, bring in that lesson of it's time to start to fight our demons and come into self-awareness. In the first decan, it's all about doing the work, being, physical with the work. So are you having a spiritual practice, for example? Are you setting your energetic boundaries? Are you allowing yourself to come into that beautiful harmony that we sometimes see in the swan, and coming into union with that energy and allowing yourself to be in your heart space? So if I translate this cosmic download that Mercury is facilitating, it is a rebirth in terms of moving into self-awareness, being the Cygnus, Saturn, strong, setting strong boundaries, but also being able to be moving into self-awareness, if you will, and actually doing the work. And Saturn has just turned retrograde, which is always a point of emphasis. So this is really, really, really important. What Saturn aligned to Cygnus is trying to tell us. It's a call for learning the lesson. It's a call for stepping into our own self-awareness. Venus is still in a square with Jupiter and the North Node, who are both aligned to the Andromeda constellation. Andromeda is associated with divine feminine energy, and there's definitely still an encouragement here to bring more in, grow into, and bringing in more of that feminine energy to keep balancing. The third theme here I want to point out is who is overseeing this new moon and the massive shifts that we are asked to move into in a new rebirth of balancing light and dark within ourselves and in the collective. The first thing I'd like to point out is Pluto's alignment to Lyra-Aladfar. And Lyra-Aladfar is associated with an archetypal energy of male dominance, overpowering, very much an imbalance with weight on the masculine energy. And when Pluto is in Capricorn here, there is a review and what work needs to be done before we step into this rebirth, if you will. So there is some homework that is done with regards to this. But in this conversation, there's a trine, a flowing energy to Sedna, now at 0 degrees of Gemini. And Sedna is representing very much the newer energy that we're stepping into. And we talked about all of this in the cosmic healing highlight that I did last week. So jump in there to learn some more about what I mean with that. But this trine between Pluto, Lyra-Aladfar, and Sedna, who is aligned to Pleiades at 0 degrees of Gemini. Pleiades is many times in the role of being a guide, as a further evolved collective, if you will, showing us the way. And Sedna is very much in that conversation right now. So that trine is really ushering us forward as part of this new moon. Second overseer is Neptune. And as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, is that there's a T-square between the Galactic Center, which is the main black hole that drives the Milky Way, our galaxy here, and there's a opposition to the new moon. So between the new moon and Gemini, aligned to Orion-Saiph, the transmuter, the balancer of light and dark, the opportunity to release any overage of negative energy, if you will. That T-square is Neptune is in charge of that T-square and gauging us here in the very last degrees of Pisces, of Sagittarius, of Gemini, asking us to step into our spiritualities, asking us to bring in the cosmic downloads and build that image within ourselves of who we would be as a multidimensional being. And Neptune's opposite alignment to the super galactic center, which has been in place for quite a long time now, is that constant communication that Neptune is having, bringing in cosmic energy to us here from a much bigger perspective. The super galactic center is one that is beyond imagination, really. It's a super cluster of wisdom, universal wisdom, that Neptune is constantly in contact with as an opposition. The supergalactic center is located at 2 degrees of Libra. So this new moon being so close to the solstice on June 23rd means that what's happening now, what we're starting now, is an invitation for a massive rebirth. The solstice is happening at 0 degrees of Cancer when the sun is traversing that degree, and which means that it's often at that time when we have a restart. It's also when we're bringing it to a bigger stage, so Orion-Saiph is often associated with transmutation, being the transmuter, as I mentioned earlier. And Saiph, as a fixed star, is located in 1 foot of the 2 of the Hunter. The Orion constellation is known as the Hunter. And isn't it true that we cannot just stand on one leg? We cannot just stand on darkness, if you will. We cannot just stand on light. We need to stand on both legs, balancing and integrating light and dark within ourselves to feel whole. So it's a strong message for us, this new moon, to ask ourselves the questions about how balanced am I? Where am I imbalanced? How can I address? How can I learn more about myself? How can I utilize this cosmic download happening now on June 18th at the new moon to learn more about myself, to allow both the light and the dark within myself to come up and be seen objectively, and then from there, identify where do I need to pull down on some things, where do I need to increase some things in my life to come to that balance. So in summary, this new moon is clearly a communication from the cosmos to us via Mercury in charge of this new moon, translating and facilitating cosmic downloads, multidimensional codes to us, where we're heading. And we have some checks and balances by Pluto. We have checks and balances by Saturn. And of course, Jupiter in the North Node showing the way, aligned to Andromeda. We have Saturn aligned to Cygnus, Deneb, suggesting that, okay, if you haven't started the work yet, started the work of fighting your demons, setting your boundaries, and coming to increased self-awareness, it's time to do the hands-on work now. We have Venus and Mars in Leo, who are firmly settled into the mental domain in the 2nd decan of Leo right now, asking us to consider the heart and drop the mind for a heart-based living, making connections to Chiron aligned to Tau Ceti, Chiron is our wound. Chiron is aligned to Tau Ceti, who is really an energy of overpowering and warrior-like energy, if you will. So the trine to Venus and Mars is really helping us to balance that energy. The square to Jupiter from Venus is suggesting to really grow into our feminine and allowing our feminine energy to come in and be balanced alongside that new energy that we're bringing in. Yeah, this cosmic download is one that can have a worldwide impact. So take the opportunity on June 18th to sit and meditate. Look in your chart if you have any alignments to Orion, either conjunct, opposites, squares, trines, sextiles. Any alignment to Orion constellation at this time is going to show you what the lesson is. It's going to show you what your work is at this time to come into balance, to integrate light and dark within yourself. I hope you enjoyed this new moon galactic astrology reading. I'll be back soon with additional topics. Come visit me on ulrikasullivan.com. And I can't wait to see you in the video sometime soon. Bye.